What's the biggest shock you can think of in the F1 driver market? There are so many to choose from, and we've picked what we believe are the 10 biggest. We know there'll be some big ones missing that you think should have been included, so make sure you let us know in the comments which moments have shocked you the most over the years. Number 10. Ferrari drops Vettel. Ferrari shook the snoozing F1 world into life during the enforced shutdown in the first half of 2020 when it announced it was splitting with Sebastian Vettel at the end of the year. But this was not a decision taken in haste, as team boss Mattia Binotto twiddled his thumbs during lockdown. The move to bring in Carlos Sainz as Vettel's replacement was made over the previous winter. Claims that the decision to part ways was taken mutually by Vettel and Ferrari were wide of the mark. Statements that referenced no common desire or shared goals had some truth to them, in that Vettel's desire and goal was to stay at Ferrari, and Ferrari didn't feel the same way. Number 9. Irvine signs for Ferrari. When Michael Schumacher signed for Ferrari for 1996, there was huge intrigue around who would be his teammate. Eddie Irvine's name wasn't high on anyone's list, and the fact Jordan had only just announced Irvine as staying on for 1996 made this an even bigger shock when it was announced. But Irvine wasn't snatched from Jordan. In fact, team boss Eddie Jordan negotiated the move to Ferrari for him. After Irvine had expressed interest in moving to Ligier, Jordan went to Schumacher to pitch the idea of Irvine being his new teammate at Ferrari. Schumacher took that suggestion to Ferrari boss Jean Todt, who then told Jordan he was mad to think Ferrari would pay a buyout clause between $4 and $6 million. Eventually, Jordan got $5 million for Irvine, which he said felt like daylight robbery. Number 8. Ricciardo signs for Renault. When Daniel Ricciardo was out of contract with Red Bull, everyone expected him to sign a new deal for 2019 and beyond. He'd won 7 races with the team, there were no other top seats available, and according to a recent quote from team boss Christian Horner, the money on offer from Red Bull was stratospheric. However, Ricciardo could feel the tide shifting within Red Bull towards Max Verstappen. He was unhappy with the way he was treated after the collision between them in Azerbaijan, and there was also stratospheric money on offer from Renault. Horner added the Australian also had doubts about the Honda engine Red Bull would use from 2019. Just days after Ricciardo told the media he expected a new Red Bull deal to be signed and announced over the 2018 summer break, news broke that he would be switching to the team's under-fire engine supplier for the following season. Number 7. Vettel to Ferrari, Alonso to McLaren. In the middle of the 2014 Japanese Grand Prix weekend, it emerged that Sebastian Vettel was leaving Red Bull for Ferrari, and he'd be replacing Fernando Alonso, who was going to make the seemingly unthinkable move of going back to McLaren. This was all triggered by Vettel telling Red Bull on the Friday night at Suzuka that he was leaving. Red Bull then got the jump on any official announcements from elsewhere by releasing a statement the following day confirming Vettel's departure. That statement didn't mention Ferrari, but Red Bull team boss Christian Horner told the media Ferrari had made Vettel a very attractive offer. Alonso, however, didn't have a deal already agreed by this point. In fact, he'd triggered Ferrari's interest in Vettel by chasing a switch to Mercedes or Red Bull for 2015, and once those attempts had failed, he intended to stay put. The problem was Ferrari had decided to move on without him, which forced him to patch things up with Ron Dennis after the controversial 2007 season they spent together and gamble on the new McLaren-Honda partnership coming good. Oh dear. Number 6. Prost sacked by Ferrari. From one Ferrari superstar being cast aside to another, except this one exploded in much more dramatic terms. 1 year on from fighting Ayrton Senna for the championship in his first year at Ferrari, Alain Prost was fired. We'll give you the short version here, as we've already made a full video on how this happened on our channel. Basically, after a winless year of simmering tension, Ferrari management decided it had had enough of Prost's attitude, and he was sacked before the final race of the year in Australia. This is often linked to Prost calling his car a truck, but that quote was actually in relation to how heavy his car's steering was in the Japanese Grand Prix due to a shock absorber failure. Despite the obvious tension between both sides during the season, what made this an even bigger shock was that Ferrari had formally announced Prost would be staying on for 1992 just a few weeks before it fired him. Before we get on to our top 5, we wanted to thank everyone who has subscribed to our channel so far. It means a lot to us to see the support you give our channel, and we'll keep working hard to give you plenty of things to watch in the future. To make sure you don't miss any of our videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Number 5. Mansell walks away. The only reason this doesn't feature higher on our list is that Nigel Mansell's decision to leave Williams for 1993 came after weeks of tense negotiations and threats from Mansell that he was willing to quit F1. Mansell's version of events is that Williams kept moving the goalposts. Williams' side of the story was that Mansell was offered everything he'd asked for early in the year, but he delayed re-signing because every dominant victory in 1992 increased what he felt he was worth. Unbeknown to the rest of the world, Williams already had Alain Prost signed for 1993. When Mansell learned of this, he negotiated an extra $1.5 million for what he described as compensation. Then Ayrton Senna threw his hat into the ring, offering to drive for Williams for free. That couldn't happen as Prost had already vetoed Senna as his teammate, but Mansell says Williams then revised its offer to him and said if he didn't sign it, they had Senna standing by. Fed up with the games behind the scenes, Mansell called a press conference on the Sunday morning of the Italian Grand Prix. Just as he went to begin reading a statement announcing his retirement, a Williams team member appeared and whispered into Mansell's ear, "Stop this, we agree to everything." But it was too late. Mansell was hurt by the way he'd been treated and his mind was made up. The new world champion began his statement by delivering the famous line, "Due to circumstances beyond my control, I have decided to retire from Formula 1 at the end of this season." Number 4. Alonso signs for McLaren, the first time. In December 2005, McLaren rocked F1 by announcing that new world champion Fernando Alonso would be joining the team for 2007. This was remarkable. Alonso had been prepared for superstardom by Renault and Flavio Briatore, and now weeks after winning his first title, he'd made the surprise decision to move on. What made this even more bizarre was that Renault and Alonso would have to go through his title defence knowing the relationship would soon be over, but that didn't stop him making it back-to-back titles in 2006. Number 3. Button to McLaren. When Jenson Button learned that Mercedes was buying the Brawn team he'd just won the World Championship with, he wasn't impressed. That was because team bosses Ross Brawn and Nick Fry told him Mercedes wasn't going to bankroll the team, so it would need to find sponsors. So Button made the surprising decision to approach McLaren for 2010. Even McLaren team boss Martin Whitmarsh couldn't believe what he was hearing when he received the phone call from Button's manager. A deal was agreed for Button to take the number 1 to McLaren alongside Lewis Hamilton, which left Kimi Raikkonen on the sidelines as he'd been in talks for that seat. Number 2. Hill dropped by Williams. Damon Hill became the 3rd world champion in 5 years to lose his drive at Williams at the end of 1996. News of Hill's departure broke with 3 races left of the season while he was still fighting for the title with his teammate Jacques Villeneuve. Williams put the end of the relationship down to Hill's manager asking for way too much money. But in fact, Hill's fate had been sealed the previous winter when Williams' bosses had decided to sign Heinz-Harald Frentzen for 1997 off the back of Hill struggling during 1995. The way Williams handled this proved to be one of the team's greatest mistakes, as it was the moment that convinced design genius Adrian Newey he would never have a say in key decisions at the team, even though he had it written into his contract. Hill took the number 1 to Arrows for 1997, Newey jumped ship to McLaren, and Williams has only won 1 more championship since. Number 1. Rosberg quits. There has never been a shock in the F1 driver market like when Nico Rosberg announced at his official FIA World Champions press conference a week after winning the title that he was quitting Formula 1 immediately in 2016. To the outside world, this was totally unexpected. The German had decided that the mental strain of finally beating Lewis Hamilton to a championship was too much to go through again. So even though he was under contract to Mercedes beyond 2016, he decided it was best to stop. Rosberg said that thoughts of retirement first entered his mind after he won that year's Japanese Grand Prix. Then the idea solidified on the morning of the final race in Abu Dhabi, and again as he took the checkered flag to become world champion. He finally committed to it on the Monday after the race. Rosberg's decision left Mercedes scrambling for a replacement, and in the end it decided to buy Valtteri Bottas out of his Williams contract to become Hamilton's new teammate.